So in this video we're going to be talking about simplifying some expressions involving powers or indices. And to start with, I've got some very basic index laws for you to look at. So number one, you've got a to the m times a to the n is a to the m plus n. So if you've got two things and you're multiplying them together with powers, you've got to add the powers together. So a to the m times a to the n is a to the m plus n. You add the powers. Number two, a to the m divided by a to the n. In this case, because you've got divided by a sign, you subtract the powers. So you've got m minus n instead of m plus n. So if you divide, you subtract. Number three, you've got a to the m in parentheses to the power of n. And if you've got something in parentheses and you raise that to the nth power, you multiply the indices, or the powers. So that becomes a to the m times n. So a to the m, all raised to the n, is a to the m times n. So number four, a to the minus m is equal to 1 over a to the m. So because of this minus sign, we have to take the reciprocal of this thing, and it becomes 1 over a to the m. So if we had m equals 1, we'd have a to the minus 1 is 1 over a. Number 5, a to the 1 over m is the mth root of a. So if m was 2, we'd have that a to the power of a half is the square root of 2. If m was 3, we'd have a to the power of a third is the cube root of a. Number 6, a to the n over m is the mth root of a to the n. So if you have something like a to the power of 2/3, that would be a squared and then cube rooted. So let's have an example. Let's try something like y squared times y to the 5. Well, this is of the form number 1, where I've got a to the m times a to the n. And we saw that in this case we've got to add the powers. So y squared times y to the 5 is y to the 2 plus 5, adding the powers, which is y to the 7. So that's our first example. Let's try another. Let's try 2r squared times 3r cubed. So in this case, what we do is we multiply the r terms and we multiply the numbers together. So if we deal with the numbers first, we've got 2 times 3, so 2 times 3 is 6. And then we can simply apply rule number 1 up here. A to the m times a to the n is a to the m plus n. We add the powers together, because we've got a multiplication sign. So this is r to the 2 plus 3, which is 6 r to the 5, just as we did in the first example. Okay, so let's try another one. Let's try b to the 4 divided by b cubed. So this is a slightly different case. So let's look at which case suits ours best. Let's look at number 2. We've got a to the m divided by a to the n equals a to the m minus n. Well, that's of the same form of our example. We've got a division sign here. So notice that we've now got to subtract the powers. So subtract the second power from the first. So we've got b to the 4 divided by b cubed. Well, that's b to the 4 minus 3, subtracting one power from the other. That's b to the 1, and anything raised to the 1 power is just itself, so that's b. Okay, time for another example. Let's try 6x to the minus 3 divided by 3x to the minus 5. Just as in our second example, we'll deal with the numbers first. So we've got 6 divided by 3, which is 2. Now we can simply apply our second rule again up here. Even though we've got negative numbers as powers, we can still do the same thing. So this becomes x to the power of minus 3, so minus 3 minus 5. And if we've got a double negative, that becomes a positive. So minus 3 minus minus 5, well, that's minus 3 plus 5, and minus 3 plus 5 is 2. So that's 2x squared. Okay, let's have two more examples. So let's now try to simplify a cubed all squared times 2a squared. So in this occasion, we've got to use the third rule, which says that we've got something in brackets to the nth power and then raise all of that to the nth power. We've got to multiply together the indices. So what is this? Well, a to the cube squared, we've got to multiply the powers, so we end up getting a to the 3 times 2 times 2a squared, and 3 times 2 is 6. So that's a to the 6 times 2a squared. And as before, we multiply the coefficients together. 1 times 2 is 2, so that's 2. And a to the 6 times a squared is a to the 8, because a to the 6 plus 2 is 2a to the 8. Let's have one final example. Let's now try 3x squared cubed divided by x to the 4. So this is now a combination of rules number 3 and 2. Okay, so what's different about this example? Well, we've now got to distribute the power to each of these terms inside the bracket. Remember, we've now got to cube the coefficient as well as the x power. So this becomes 3 cubed times x squared, or cubed, divided by x to the 4. And what's 3 cubed? Well, 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27, so 3 cubed is 27. X squared or cubed, we've now got to multiply the powers together, because we've got something in parentheses raised to another power, we multiply the powers. So 2 times 3 is 6, so we've got x to the 6, divided by x to the 4. And just as before, using our second rule, up here, we've got to subtract one power from the other, the second power from the first, and this becomes 27x to the 6 minus 4, which is 27x squared.